Many of us start working on areas of our lives that we have previously not really given the attention we wish we could have. And a lot of this work starts in midlife, beginning an exercise routine or reconnecting with friends from the past, etc. But for me, one of those areas is addressing my physical environment. On today's episode, we're looking at clutter and how it can affect us in a myriad of ways, especially at night. I'm Jay, and this is Somnilopod. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I hope that you are doing well, and I really appreciate you spending some time with me today. I came up to my office. It's an upstairs room in my house, and with two goals today. The first was to work on this episode, and the second was to organize my desk, because I'm sitting here looking at three different piles of bills and journals and stuff that I need to just go through. And for some reason, I have two unlit candles. They've never been burned. They're sitting on my desk. I have no idea why. So I wanted to give you that little visual as we enter into this episode. And, there's something interesting that happens when we walk into a cluttered room, especially after a long day. Even if we don't consciously think about it, part of the brain immediately begins processing information. A pile of laundry in the corner, papers stacked on the counter, random objects without a place to belong, and half-finished projects quietly waiting for our attention. For many people, especially in midlife, that visual noise does not stay in that room. It follows us into the evening, into bed, and sometimes into sleep itself. We often think of clutter as a housekeeping problem or a lack of organization. But psychologically, clutter can represent something much deeper. Our environment affects our nervous system more than most people realize, and the spaces we spend time in may influence our stress levels and mental fatigue, and our ability to fully relax. Research has shown associations between cluttered home environments, increased stress, and less healthy daily cortisol patterns, particularly among women. And that connection matters because modern life already overloads our brains with stimulation. Most of us move through the day absorbing far more information than humans were designed to process. And by bedtime, many people are mentally exhausted, but neurologically overstimulated. Now add visual chaos on top of that. The nervous system may have a hard time transitioning into rest. Studies on attention and cognition suggest that visual clutter competes for mental resources and increases cognitive load. And in simpler terms, cluttered environments can make the brain work harder to filter information and to maintain focus. That doesn't mean that a messy room directly causes insomnia. Sleep is, as you know, far more complicated than that. But clutter may contribute to stress, mental arousal, and the feeling that the brain never fully powers down. And that feeling is something that many adults know very well. One reason this happens is because the human brain constantly scans the environment for cues. Even though we no longer sleep outdoors while watching for danger, the nervous system still responds to surroundings in subtle ways. Calm, predictable environments may help communicate safety and relaxation, while chaotic environments may reinforce a sense of unfinished work or ongoing stimulation. And this is why some people feel strangely restless in cluttered spaces, even when they're physically tired. The body may be exhausted, but the mind still feels on. And for Gen X especially, this issue becomes magnified during midlife. By this stage in life, many people are carrying decades of accumulated possessions, alongside increasingly complicated responsibilities. Aging parents, adult children, careers, financial strain, health concerns, emotional burnout. Many of us spend years moving from one obligation to another without ever fully resetting our environments or ourselves. Eventually, the external clutter can begin reflecting the internal clutter. And sometimes that clutter is emotional. Not every pile of objects represents laziness or poor organization. Sometimes clutter reflects postponed decisions, grief, stress, sentimental attachment, or simple exhaustion. The closet full of old clothes may represent difficulty letting go of our younger versions of ourselves, and boxes stored in the garage may hold memories that we're not really ready emotionally to revisit. Unfinished projects may quietly remind us of goals that we no longer have the energy to pursue. The brain recognizes all of it on some level. And this is one reason decluttering often feels emotionally draining rather than physically difficult. We're not simply moving objects around a room, we're interacting with memory, identity, aspirations, guilt, and change. And all of that emotional weight can influence stress levels during the day and mental arousal at night. Many people notice an immediate sense of relief after cleaning or organizing a room, and that response is not imaginary. Research suggests that reducing environmental chaos may help reduce cognitive overload and improve emotional comfort. And the bedroom becomes especially important here. Ideally, the brain should begin associating the bedroom with calmness, recovery, intimacy, and sleep. In sleep medicine, one of the foundations of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is rebuilding the connection between the bed and sleep itself. But many modern bedrooms slowly become extensions of daytime stress. Laundry baskets, work material, exercise equipment, a dozen charging cords, unopened mail. The room meant for recovery quietly transform into another workspace for the brain. That matters because sleep is not purely biological. Yes, sleep involves hormones and circadian rhythms and brain chemistry, but emotional state and environmental context also shape how easily the nervous system transitions into rest. When the brain continues perceiving stimulation or unfinished tasks, some people may experience difficulty winding down at bedtime. This can contribute to racing thoughts, bedtime anxiety, lighter sleep, or the feeling of being mentally busy late at night. The good news is that improving this does not require perfection. Social media often promotes unrealistic images of spotless homes and highly curated minimalist lifestyles. And when I see those pictures and articles about that stuff, I just think, does anybody live here? They just look so sterile to me because sometimes, life has a little bit of clutter. But this is not the goal. A healthy sleep environment is not about creating a showroom. It's about reducing unnecessary stress signals and creating spaces that feel calmer and more restorative. Sometimes very small changes make a meaningful difference. Make your bed in the morning. Clear that nightstand off. If you have a glass of water at night, take that into the kitchen, put it in the sink. Reduce excess lighting and remove work-related materials from sleeping areas. Spending 5 or 10 minutes resetting the room before bedtime. These simple habits may help signal the brain that the day is ending and recovery is beginning. And perhaps most importantly, we should approach clutter with compassion rather than shame. Many people are overwhelmed right now. Life feels expensive and noisy and emotionally demanding. Your energy is limited. People are carrying invisible mental loads that others just never see. Sometimes clutter's not failure. Sometimes it's simply evidence that a person has been surviving for a very long time without enough rest. But that is also why reclaiming our spaces can become such a meaningful form of self-care. Not because a cleaner room magically solves every problem, but because reducing chaos around us may help reduce some of the chaos within us. In a world constantly competing for our attention, our nervous system desperately needs places that they can finally stop scanning for problems. Sleep often begins there, not just in darkness, but in peace. I hope this has been helpful for you. I am about to go ahead and tackle this mess on my desk, but if you have any decluttering tips or tricks that you would like to share with everybody, send those along. You can touch base with me at j@somnilopod.com. You can also reach me on Facebook or YouTube. And until we speak again, please remember to make sleep a priority. Thanks so much.